My name is Laura Jones, and I'm the Community Outreach Coordinator for Friends of the Verde River Greenway. Oh, I have to run the slide thing. Hold on. Okay. So Friends of the Verde River Greenway is a nonprofit 501c3 that was actually started as a friends group for a 6-mile designated Verde River Greenway, which is part of the State Parks program, and that runs through the heart of the Verde River. And we are the lead nonprofit on the Verde Watershed Restoration Coalition, which is a group of public land managers and private land owners. And we're really working to implement the Cooperative Invasive Plant Management Plan, which was designed to address invasive plants in the Verde watershed, which is obviously bigger than the initial Verde Greenway that we started working on years ago. We actually go in and do assessment and removal of invasives with crews, some from the Coconino Rural Environment Corps, which are young adult crews, and we work with a crew of returning veterans from an organization called the Vetraplex, which is also located in the Verde Valley. Our funding has come from a variety of sources, from the Walton Family Foundation to Arizona Game and Fish, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Arizona State Forestry. We've actually just started doing some private fundraising for getting individual gifts, and we were doing some online giving campaigns. Arizona Give Days is April 9th, in case anybody's interested. We're always plugging. Jamie, yes? April 9th, remember. So let me tell you a little about the Verde watershed. It is 6,623 square miles. It has 40.5 miles of wild and scenic river, one of the only designations in the state of Arizona. It has very rare Fremont cottonwood and Gooding riparian gallery forests. I was in one the other day at Cottonwood Stand. It was just amazing, and to see that in the middle of the desert is quite spectacular. We have an incredible array of wildlife. We have a very active beaver population that I got to see their handiwork when I went kayaking on Sunday. And it was warm enough in Arizona to go kayaking on Sunday. And we have, including over 20 federally designated endangered or threatened species. And we also, it's a really amazing birding year-round, but it really is a critical flyover for birds that are migrating north and south. Okay. So just a little about the invasives. We've been talking a lot. We're at the Tamarisk Coalition. We obviously have tamarisk trees. We have Russian olive trees. We have the arundo, which is arundo donax, which is the giant reed. And what is somewhat unique to our areas, we have the tree of heaven or paradise tree, ailanthus trees. They have lots of different names. Those were brought in, most of these were brought in for erosion control. The ailanthus tree was brought in specifically to help with the mines in Jerome. And there's the tale of a gentleman who got all the children of Clarkdale to put together all the seeds they could find, and he collected 60 pounds of seeds and flew them in an airplane over Jerome and dropped them. And they have now spread throughout the watershed. So we see these. We're really lucky, though, because as I said in the previous slide, we really do have a healthy watershed and healthy native tree population, but these guys are getting aggressive in lots of places. So the Verde Valley is a place where public meets private land quite literally. You can be standing here and you're on somebody's private property, you're standing here, you're on public lands. Sometimes there's very little delineation between the two. But we have 3 national forests, Coconino, Prescott, and Tonto. We have 2 national monuments, the Montezuma Well and Castle and Tuzagut National Monument. We have Arizona State Parks, as we talked about already. There are several cities and towns, municipalities, and unincorporated areas of Yavapai County and Coconino County, as well as the Yavapai Apache Nation. So it's quite a diverse community. Whoop, I went too fast. So, private land ownership. There are pockets of private land ownership inside these 6,600 acres or miles. So along the Verde and its tributaries, we approximate that there's about 1,700 individual parcels that actually touch the tributaries and that contain riparian areas. And again, we estimate this because there are no records that give us this clean information, but we say of those 1,700, there are about 850 private landowners. We estimate, again, about 14,000 total acres, about 4,500 riparian acres. And in the total watershed, there's 568 river miles, or 407 miles in our target area that we're really doing work. If you notice, there's a nice legend on the side of this map. We have a wonderful GIS system in Yavapai County, which helps us reach out to these landowners. Without that GIS system, Jan Holder tells me the story about Gila County and going through these giant ledgers trying to figure out who owns what piece of property. So our GIS system from our county really helps us with that. Still, it's hard to find them. And when we started this project, when this project got started, we had a couple of phases where we were like, okay, let's go after the big landowners. And in Yavapai County, or particularly in the Verde Valley, it was a very large agricultural community. There's still some large landowners, but mostly the land has been broken up into ranchettes, into little pieces here and there. So we started looking at large parcels and trying to get as many people as we could that would have as many contiguous miles and riparian acres. Then we said, okay, now we got to start filling in the little holes. So we started then going after anybody who lived on the river or on a tributary that would potentially have invasive plants on their property. So how do we do that? We have, as I said, we start with the Yavapai County parcel system. They've been really great with us and helped us develop lists of who those 1,700 landowners are. We do community outreach events. We go to farmers markets, we talk to folks, we say, who are you, where do you live, what do you live on the river? We invite ourselves over to a lot of people's homes. We invite people out. We've had great partnerships with some of our local wineries and our nurseries and things like that, where we've held events and we invite people to come and meet with us and talk to us and hear about the work that we're doing. And we've been really fortunate because we've had a lot of good outreach in our local paper to help come out and photograph us working on the projects. What are we doing? How are we doing that? And that's helped spread the word too. The other things, we serve really good food. That's Miss Anna's handiwork up there. But we also, neighbor to neighbor. Earlier today, I checked my phone and I had a message from somebody who has a farm next to a property where our crews are working right now, and the guy who is managing that project passed the information on to this guy and said, here, call Laura, talk to her about the invasives. That word of mouth has been really important to us, and being able to help us reach out to particularly consecutive landowners, because to go in and do work in an area where the neighbor downstream or the neighbor right upstream isn't involved, we're not going to be as successful with the eradication and the removal of plants. So we really try to get as many of those people in a consecutive order as we can. So when we get them in front of us, we sometimes do a PowerPoint presentation like this, but as we've started to do presentations more like at a winery, we're sitting down on a bench overlooking the creek going by, the PowerPoint doesn't work very well. So we've created a large poster that we fold up and carry and take out, and we talk to people. This is a watershed. Here you are in the watershed. This is how these things relate to each other. We talk to them about the invasive plants that we have and why we think that they're important to help get out of the system and remove from the system. We talk to them about how we come in and help them look at their properties. We come in and we do mapping. I will go and talk to anybody and walk anybody's piece of property. I call myself the idiot savant of invasive plants. I can identify 4 plants. I do it well. People are very impressed. They're very happy. But a lot of times people don't know what they have. And they have no idea that, oh, that thing that I've been nurturing because I want to keep a barrier between my neighbor and I, if that gets out of control, it's going to land on the neighbors over there. So we get a lot of different responses, and a lot of this is educating people to what they have and how they can help us address these issues. And then we do talk to them about our crews and the treatment and how we come in and we do the work. And we have a variety of responses. We've done a lot of treatment on properties. We have some folks who say, tell me what I have, I'll take care of it. We have other folks that have said, I want to be part of your coalition. Come and see how I got rid of all the arundo on my property with my brush hog. and who drove, people who just drive over it and get rid of it. So, and then we really work with them about how do we do this long term, and particularly because they are their land managers. So they will see the plants if they come back. They will see what's going on, and how can we help them to continue to do that. So just to give you a sense, this is a small section of Oak Creek. The Verde and Oak Creek both do a lot of twisting and turning. The blue line that runs through the center of this is Oak Creek. It's also one of the ditches. We've got a lot of ditches in our communities, and those ditches have been around since the late 1800s. And we work with the ditch bosses and folks like as well to see what they've got going on their ditches and see if we can help work with them if they're in our target areas. But you'll see here, the blue is Arizona Game and Fish. The green is Coconino National Forest, which abuts up against private land here. And then the pink and white are all individual parcels that are along this stretch of Oak Creek. The pink ones are actually landowners who have signed on landowner agreements with us. And what a landowner agreement is, it's an agreement to allow us to come in and do habitat improvement on their property. And with each person who signs an agreement, we go, as I said before, we assess their property, and we then make a plan with them based on their individual property. And it has to be that individual where we are. And we also really need to get a lot of these folks to cooperate with each other. The parcel that's right in the middle, I know how to use the little, there it goes, this one right here. One of the biggest parcels in this area is owned by a gentleman who I went to see him, and I said, I'm interested in talking to you about invasive plants. And he took me over this little rickety footbridge over the ditch and took me down along Oak Creek. And he said, well, this is sort of where my property ends, and then that so-and-so's over there, and that so-and-so's over there. And then these pieces here actually belong across to the folks away, but you can't get to them unless you can get through here. So and when we got him to sign on, it meant we had access not only to his property, but these properties, and all of these properties that actually cross the creek. So that cooperation among neighbors to us is really essential. And he's a terrific guy who said, well, how are you going to get all that stuff out of there? How are you going to get it across the ditch? And I said, I don't really know. And he said, well, I think you should build a bridge. And I said, oh, that's an idea. I'm going to go back to the office and talk to folks about that. And I called him 2 days later, and I said, he said, well, what are you going to do about that bridge? And I said, I don't know. We don't really have that in our budget. And he said, well, I've been thinking about it. I got a trailer. I think we can get that in there. And he built us a bridge so we could get over the ditch to get the stuff out. And so we've had incredible success stories with people who have done, really great things to help us move this project along. And just so you know, there's I think I counted the other day, there's 20 individual landowners in this 1.3 stretch mile. This is 1.3 miles of creek, and there's 17 individual landowners that we work with in just that one little stretch. So the smallest private parcel that we've got is somebody who had 0.2 acres, just a little tiny parcel with a house on it. The largest is one private landowner, which is a mining consortium that owns 1,739 acres. The smallest riparian, again, 0.2, and the largest riparian area is 838. And the shortest river mile, somebody just got 0.01 to the longest, which is 4.6. So we put a lot of little pieces together to sort of make things connect to each other. So how many do we have signed on? As of February 14th, which was Friday, we have 186 private landowners signed on. They have a total of 473 parcels. They have a total of 5,478 acres and 2,002 riparian acres, and it covers 34 river miles. Now, back at the beginning, you might have noticed that I said we had something about 400 and some odd river miles in our project area. So these are just the private parcel miles that we have signed on to participate. It doesn't include the public. And we've got almost, though we don't have half of the landowners, because we've continued, as much as we've gotten the tiny ones, we've continued to try to work with some of the larger landowners. So we are getting close to having half of the total acreage and half of the total riparian area in this area of the private landowner. So that's really exciting. We just realized that the other day. So what are our challenges? We're concerned about landowner fatigue. I send out letters now, and I get 1 or 2 phone calls, or I do a community event. There's about 10 people there. It is a concern because the folks that are interested in and understand this, the minute they heard about it, they got right on board. So we're doing a lot more work to help neighbors get neighbors and working with people. And we still have communities that we've done very little outreach to that we'll continue to do more and more outreach. We've been working from the upper reaches of the watershed down to the main stem of the Verde, trying to get as much seed source from the top down as we can. So we'll continue to do that, but it is a concern. And, Oak Creek is so small and the Verde is so small, you can stand on a property you're working on and you can look right across and see the guy across the way who won't return your phone calls for beans. And you can see the giant arundo on his property and you just go, gosh, I want to get over there. So that's a little bit of worry. Customer satisfaction. Our landowners are our customers. We want to make sure that they're happy. I think we do great job. CREC and the Vetroplexes, we've been working with them. It'll be our 3rd season next year. I think we're really perfecting our technique, and we're getting better working with landowners about what it is that they want to see and how they can work with us, that really is improving with time. Our long-term monitoring and maintenance is, as everybody knows, in every project like this, is really a challenge. In the private land management, I think we're really beginning to improve, again, the way we're talking to people and getting them to understand that they're part of that long-term monitoring and maintenance. I had a great call from a woman the other day. She said, the tree of heaven came back. I want to know what I should be doing. And so we talked for a while, and I said, do you want me to get somebody to come down and help you? And she said, no. I just wanted to make sure I'm doing the right thing. I'm good. Okay, I'll let you know how it goes. So she's totally into it. She's like, I know this is long-term. I'm going to keep doing it. So we're working, getting people involved more and more that way. And then sustainable funding. Our initial plan was for 5 years. We know that this is a project that will last at least 5 years, if not longer. And so we're continuing to look at funding streams. We've been incredibly appreciative of the funding that we've got and that we will continue. And I think our community is beginning to understand that it is wonderful to have support from foundations and from government agencies and such, but that they also need to get involved as well. So thank you. That's me, and that's our lovely office with a rainbow.
Question? So how are you addressing the monitoring issue? Are you talking to folks up front when a project gets going, or is this something that's kind of an afterthought?
No, we're talking to people up front. Part of our agreement talks about what we will do and what they will do. And our landowners, particularly our private landowners, have a variety of their own individual resources. So some people will say, I'll take care of all of the brush. I'll get rid of everything, and and I'll give you my guys to work with your guys to help, do the work. And then the monitoring is something we say to them, you've got to monitor for us. You have got to be watching what's going on, because we will come back, but probably before we ever get back, you'll see what's going on. You'll see if a treatment hasn't been effective, and we'll be working with them, and then we'll be going back and monitoring those areas annually.
So are you providing a protocol for them, though, to follow, or are you just letting them decide how they're going to monitor?
We're in the process of finalizing our monitoring protocol, but we are working with them and giving them best practices up front so they understand, this is the thing that we've done, this is what we've seen being effective, so we're working with them on that. Yeah.
Other questions?
I'm just curious as to what your first steps were when you were getting in touch with some of these landowners. I mean, 186 landowners involved is really amazing.
Yeah.
And, you had to start somewhere. I guess I'm just interested how that happened.
It's where our Yavapai County, Yavapai County is a rural county, but it's an incredibly efficient county. And so my predecessor actually went to Yavapai County and said, can you give us a list of every single parcel that touches the Verde, Oak Creek, West Clear Creek, Beaver Creek. So we were given an actual physical list with parcel numbers, with addresses. And so that allowed us to do direct outreach to people. And those lists are actually broken up based on community. And so we still use them to this day. And then it's an interesting thing in a rural community and probably anywhere at this point. The phone book will get you somewhere, but it will only get you so far. If somebody has bought their property in the last 5 years, they're not going to be in the phone book. If they've been there 40 years, they're in the phone book. And I've had some amazing conversations with people who I've just picked up the phone and said, hi, this is who I am. You've probably gotten a letter from me. Can I come and visit you? And they say, sure, come on out and visit. So we started with letters initially, inviting people to outreach events. And we still do that. And then we do follow-up phone calls and all of that. But without that system, it would have been even more difficult than it is. Yeah.
Did you have cost share requirements for your landowners for the grants that you were working under?
We don't have any formal cost share requirements for our landowners at this point. I think as we go down the line, those will get more formalized, but we do get a significant amount of in-kind from our landowners, which help with our grants. And we ask them to track, how many hours they put in, if they have somebody who works for them and is helping. Like we just worked on a ranch in Page Springs, and their guy was out there, working with our guys, and so we keep track of that, and then we calculate that into the total cost of the event, of the work. Oh yeah, part of the Verde Watershed Restoration Coalition, it's nonprofits like Friends, it's our Forest Service partners, our state parks, our national parks, municipalities, Game and Fish, a whole lot of different folks. And we have committees, subcommittees there. We've got an outreach and engagement subcommittee. We have a monitoring subcommittee, long-term maintenance and monitoring subcommittee. We have a sustainable funding subcommittee, and I'm forgetting one. And implementation, thank you. And an implementation subcommittee. So those 4 subcommittees work overall to help implement the plan. Thank you.